In September in 2025, I lost my brother to suicide. Since then, it's March 2026 now, so we're looking at 5 months on. And I wanted to start providing some videos, face-to-camera videos, to talk around my lessons, the things I've experienced, and generally sort of document how it's been going and what I've been finding the experience to be like. The reason why, I suppose, just for context, why I want to do that is my brother, Mike, he'd speak openly online about his struggles, about the things he was going through. He did a feature with BBC once where it went viral on like Instagram and TikTok. I think it was like 4 million views. All in the hope, I suppose, of helping others and ensuring that others didn't feel that they were alone. So that's the core motivation really for me doing this type of video, face to camera stuff. It's not something I ever planned or would have done before. But since I've lost him, it feels like a calling for me to do this type of thing, to, I suppose, carry on the conversation that he started and the things that he was doing in my own way. So we're looking at 5 months on, and I think doing this video now is probably quite a good time to do this, because I've got a bit of, quite a decent amount of time away from what's happened that I can go back and reflect on. Now, I've heard from multiple sources that 4 or 5 months into grief is nothing. Apparently 2 years into grief is early. So 5 months, I suppose, is still, in the grand scheme of things, incredibly early. However, as I said, I am doing this because my brother did, Mike did, and trying to help, I suppose, others if I can by sharing my experience. The reason why I want to share my experience as well is because what surprised me in this moment in time, so it's, what's the date? Mid-March, early March, I'm feeling surprisingly good. Like, energy levels are huge. I posted something the other day where I said I feel like I've got a fire underneath me. I feel really fueled, really energetic, really motivated, driven to get not only the most out of life, but to be as productive as I possibly can, to squeeze everything I can out of life. Now, obviously, with grief and everyone's journey is totally different. Everyone's experience is completely different. So I did think about whether I should even explain that that's how I'm feeling, because that might be something that might not seem where someone should be at this stage after losing their brother to suicide. You wouldn't expect them to have this drive, this motivation. But I think the reason why I'm like this is because I've done multiple things to try and stack the deck in my favor as much as possible. I'll talk through that in a second, but one part of grief is you go through these emotions constantly swirling around in your head. And one of those emotions is guilt that comes in, especially when it's dealing with something like your sibling taking his life. You feel a sense of guilt comes in that could you have done more? But also a sense of guilt comes in, which it has done previously, of days where I felt normal or good. I felt guilty for that. And today I don't. And my reflection on that is because I know that he wouldn't want me to be feeling stuck or down or struggling with life. I know he wouldn't. So that's why I don't feel guilty. But on the flip side of that, there might be a day that comes around, or a week or whatever, or a moment where I do feel guilty. So that's why I'm being as honest as possible to talk about how I am right now in this moment, because there's waves that come about the waves analogy of some days or moments you're up, some you're down. And this is just a period where I'm doing really well and super motivated. And as I said, just super high energy in terms of getting the most out of everything. So I would be doing myself and my brother and everything else a disservice if I wasn't honest about that. Now, the experience over the last 5 months, so I found out on the 30th of September, that's the day that he took his life. I've done a couple of videos before where I've spoken about the first month and stuff, so I won't repeat that because you can, if you want to look at that, that's pretty raw. It was like a couple of days, maybe 30 days after. And since then as well, I've did a podcast as well. It was with one of his mates where we sit down and speak each week on how we're doing, talking about reflecting on the previous week, our experience and how that's changed. And having those weekly conversations have been hugely helpful because it's not often really that we speak about our feelings and how we're doing, especially, I suppose, maybe as men, I don't know. We don't really speak about it too much. And this thing where I set up with him the podcast, I didn't like calling it a podcast, so I don't like calling it a podcast. But it is what it is. It's a weekly conversation. Felt like maybe it could be something which can demonstrate to people that, oh, it's all right to actually talk openly. But what I learned with that is sitting down every single week, having it scheduled in, means that you reflect on the week and bounce back and forward, and you can see your progress or your journey, I suppose. And that's a big lesson for me. And what I did, and it's not the usual way, I suppose, that you would imagine someone processes a loss like that, is starting a podcast, sticking it online. But the context being is my brother did YouTube and he did that thing. So that was the core motivator and core driver. And the reason why, I suppose, the other side of it is my instinct was to do something. I felt like if I was sitting around like twiddling my thumbs, it wasn't good for me. I felt like I needed to do something, take action. And there's probably some sort of subconscious drive or something around trying to establish some sort of control in a scenario that is completely out of my control. So there might be a protecting mechanism perhaps in that. But it worked out to be something that is incredibly valuable. And I've got a documented record, I suppose, over the last 4 months, of a weekly conversation of how I've been doing. And if I actually look back at the first stages through to now, I've gone through the shock phase where you've got adrenaline pumping through you, essentially, and you just don't know what to do. You can't comprehend what's happened, through to like the slumps of having no energy, waking up with headaches, knackered, tired, not wanting to speak to anyone. I was avoiding conversations with anyone, really. I didn't leave the house for a week, my flat for a week. At one point, I was going to another coffee shop that wasn't my local, so I didn't have to speak to them, because obviously when you go to your local coffee shop, you get to know them. So I was avoiding all these things at the beginning, and I can look back at the podcast recordings and see that that's what I was like. Now, that's why at the beginning of this, where I'm talking about having super high energy, super motivated, super pumped and disciplined to try and get the most out of things, this has been a process, I suppose. And of course, with the waves analogy and grief, I appreciate this moment of potentially being at the top of a crest, because I know it possibly might, another wave might hit, another dip might hit. So I appreciate it much more. So that's the background, I suppose. So where I'm at now, I guess it would be useful to provide some lessons in terms of where I'm at and what I think I've done that's helped me get here. So in January, that was where I really sort of slumped I suppose. It was like the no energy. I was doing everything I think I could do to help me, but I really decided that I need to really do an analysis of my life and my habits and my behaviors. I've always been someone who's been, I'd say, quite disciplined. But I think those habits and behaviors that I think were good for me slowly started creeping out. And then as that happened, tiredness, heaviness started creeping in, back in. So there was a couple of things I did. So middle of Jan, so we're talking 6 weeks ago, I made the decision to quit alcohol completely. It's not something that I struggled with in the sense of I drank every day or anything. It was usually maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, maybe even once every 3 weeks. So it was not like a daily thing, but I did find that if I was drinking, say, like once on a Saturday or a Friday, then the hangover the next day was a big issue. But then it would take me a few days to get fully back up to speed again in terms of my body, my mindset and everything like that. So I decided that's it. I'm stopping, and just been on 0% beers, still been going out socializing. And I've found that 6 weeks on, I think this is coming to why I'm feeling so much more energetic. It might not just be that, because there's a few different things I've done, but I think that's a big contributor. The other thing that I did as well, I stopped, I basically used to vape when I had a drink, and that slowly but surely became a daily habit as a coping mechanism as well, becoming more and more and more. So we've knocked that on the head and quit that, and that was 3 weeks ago. So there's no drinking, there's no vaping, as the habits that I've got rid of. And then the other things I incorporated from a doing perspective in terms of habits was I now have a huge green smoothie NutriBullet every single morning with spinach, banana, pineapple, carrot, just absolute ton of good stuff that goes inside. And you have just to fuel you for the day. My theory is that if you look after the body, then your energy levels are going to be good, which therefore your mindset's going to be good. I think I heard once it's physiology is biology or something along those lines. Essentially, I think, the brain, but your mind and your body are linked, aren't they? In terms of you have good energy from a physical perspective, then I think your mind reflects that as well. So I basically decided, right, I'm not going to leave anything to chance. I'm going to, I suppose, almost think about disciplining my way out of grief. Now, and I know there's no cure for grief or anything, and it's different for everybody, but my way was, if I can do every single little tiny thing that puts me that little step further along the road, then I'll do it. A tiny little thing, tiny little daily habits. And I really think over the last couple of months since I've installed that is why I've got this newfound energy and drive, and sort of not just physical energy, but also like mentally as well. I'm in a really, really good place. I actually saw someone yesterday, and they said that they spoke with somebody else who chatted with me, and they said that someone said about me that they spoke to me and it was like I was a different person from when they last saw me a couple of months ago. Now, of course, there's multiple variables. There's variables in the sense of it's a few months further down the line. It could be a wave thing up and down. It could be a bunch of things. And with those variables, that's why I wanted to get rid of any negative habits and bring in really positive ones. Because if there is any variables there, I wanted to know if I did have a down day, it wasn't an extended hangover from the weekend. It wasn't chemically induced via a vape or anything like that. I'm like, if I just have a clean slate, if I do have a down day, I know there's nothing else that is affecting it externally. So yeah, incorporating daily habits, gym, green juices. I do gratitude journal. I do video diaries. So this is why I'm doing this, actually. I thought I do video diaries on my phone, which are private. So I decided, actually, why don't I start doing video diaries, but ones that can be potentially public, that that might help other people, essentially. If I can just put this out there and someone watches and they get any value from it, or they can recognize that they've gone through the same thing and they felt the same thing as me, or a habit they can take on that might help them, then that's the purpose of doing this, I suppose. And I think, as I said, by me feeling good right now, maybe someone out there is feeling guilty because they feel all right, and maybe that helps you if you're watching to be like, oh, actually, yeah, it's fine too. So yeah, I think long story short, that's the first one. So I'm going to do more of these. I started doing face to cameras. I just did a couple at the early stages when I wasn't sure what to do. I just didn't know what to do. I was like, I'll just record a video, put it out there, because my brother did. And then from there, the idea for a podcast came around. Don't do that. And then I was like, right, I'm going to start now doing these face to camera videos, video diary things, but just put a bit more effort into it and make it be something that I can post out online that might help someone who comes across it. So I think that's it. I don't know how long this video's been. It could be useful. It could be not. I'm not even expecting anyone to watch this, to be honest. But if you've come across it, and it'll find the right people when they need it, I suppose. Or if anyone doesn't need it, then fine. But I'm sticking it out there, and if it helps someone, it helps someone. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.